Hey guys, how are ya? Canyon Tyner back here again with another video. And today's video is going to be the first episode in my poultry care series. And since it's the first episode, we're going to go over something that we all need if you have chickens, and that is housing. So let's get down to it. As far as housing goes, you're going to need a coop that has enough space for your birds. So take into consideration, you obviously can't shove 30 birds in something the size of this coop. The general rule is 1 bird per 4 square feet. So I have ample space for the 6 silkies I have in this coop, because I do believe it is 11 by 7. So that gives you 77 square feet of space. The first thing to take into consideration is, or second thing rather, after your size, is what is your coop being made out of. This is PVC coated wire with that has been stapled in. It is extremely strong. I can pull it as hard as I can and it's not coming out. Now, chicken wire or this hard wire cloth here, absolute crap. I'm sure if I kicked this hard enough, it would dent. And so, the main theme that needs to be going through your head as you're building or purchasing your coop is that coops are not made to keep chickens in. Coops are made to keep predators out. So wherever you live, I guarantee that you have predators of some kind. Whether that be raccoons, possum, mink, weasel, and then what a lot of people don't consider are stray dogs and cats, and even your dogs and cats. Because no matter how friendly your birds or your pets are, they are still predators and they will kill your chickens if they get the chance. So, another thing to consider, aerial predators, hawks, falcons, eagles, things like that, and especially with smaller bantams like this, extremely easy pickings for birds of prey. So, you want to have a coop that has a roof on it of some sort. You can see my coop does have a physical roof with shingles. That's a little extra. But if you're using something like this over here, where we have a dog kennel, this is my breeding pair of African geese, by the way. If you have something like a dog kennel, up top you see it's open air. One, your chickens can, if they're excellent flyers, like some breeds are, especially of bantam breeds, they can hop right through that, fly, fine. So that's one thing, is to keep the chickens in, but once again, you're not focusing on keeping the chickens in, you're focusing on keeping the predators out. So you could use 2 or 3 more of these panels and throw them on the roof. And that's going to create a barrier, so any birds of prey that could try to pick them off can't get them, and anything like a raccoon or a possum that can climb this wire can't fit through it. That's a very important thing, is keeping your pen predator proof, because it is your responsibility to keep your birds safe. And if you're just throwing birds in a really crappy condition coop and you just replace them every time something kills them, that's not fair to the birds, and that's not fair to you, because you're going to end up paying lots of money for birds that are only going to live a few weeks. Because once a predator finds out that you have easy food for them, they're going to keep coming back. And things like raccoons that could hunt in pairs or groups, and things like dogs, stray dogs that hunt in packs, extremely easy pickings, which is very unfortunate. So, you've already covered your wire and your roof. Remember, those are 2 of your most important things, because those are your first barriers against predator attacks. So your next thing, you want to make sure your coop is on level ground. You do not want it to be tilted, or you don't want stuff to be able to dig or squeeze underneath it. Along the bottom, I have some wood here that is that the wire's attached to. Unless a predator, predators typically, unless you let it happen over time, things like dogs aren't going to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig, because that's going to take a while to get under your coop, and they're not going to do that continuously. But if you're worried about that, because some animals like mink or weasel, or even rats in some cases that steal eggs and chicks, they can fit right under wood if they dig for just a little bit. So you can use more of your cloth. You could put down your wire. There's several things you can do to deter digging, so that's another thing. But now let's get to the non-predator related part of your coop. So you have a few terms here. You have the physical coop, which is this part here. Then you have the run, which is the part outside of the coop that they get to be outdoors. Like this is like their little house part, that's the coop. Then the run is where they have access to get bugs, all that stuff. Your run is where your chickens are going to spend most of their day. So that's where you need to supply their food and water. But let's start with the coop. So my coop actually has 2 windows here, and then a little ventilation screen in the back on the opposite side. Those are 2 very important things. Most people are very concerned about their birds being able to survive through the winter. And that is a very good cause of worry, because if your birds are in a really crappy slapdash coop, something like this, it's not going to be very easy for them to survive. In order to keep your birds healthy through the winter, the main things, keep them dry and keep them out of the wind. So if it starts snowing or raining and it's really cold and your birds get saturated, then that really cold wind comes through. That's going to be what kills your bird. They're going to freeze to death. But if you keep them dry and you give them some sort of shelter to get out of the wind, they will be fine. Chickens are pretty resilient. Another thing you can do in the cold, I'll open up my back, the back of the coop here. Give them some shavings. Now there are several options when it comes to coop bedding. I personally use pine shavings. Do not use cedar. Cedar is known to aggravate the respiratory system in birds, and it can end up killing them. So no cedar. You can use hay, straw, shavings. Some people use play sand. I've just mainly used pine shavings. So that's one thing. And then in the winter, you can make them extra thick layers so they can bed down in them. You see one of my silky hens right there. She's gone broody. So she's having her babies. But back to this, inside your coop, you want to make sure it's nice and cozy. You can provide some perches. Silkies like mine don't typically perch, but for other birds, especially large fowl, not necessarily bantams, big perchers. So you want to supply some perches. You also want to have nest boxes. So a general rule is 1 nest box per every 3 to 4 birds that you have, just to make sure you're giving them ample space and things like that. Of course, the things like windows and screen, none of that's really necessary. That's just more for aesthetic purposes, really. But yes, so as long as they're staying out of the wind and they're staying dry, those are the main things. You also want to make sure it's easy to clean, because these shavings will get dirty pretty quickly. So you want to make sure you can get in here, scoop them out, replace them, everything like that. That's about it as far as housing goes. If you guys have any tips from other chicken keepers for newbies in the comments, go ahead and comment that. If you have anything I may have forgotten, you can comment that as well. It'll be greatly appreciated. If you guys have any topics you'd like me to cover in this chicken series, let me know, because I will be covering things like diet and housing, things like that, dealing with aggressive roosters like that. Come here. Now he's my buddy. I'm going to carry him around, because that's how you deal with him. You just have to carry him around. And then I'm going to deal with several other topics. Yeah, so if you guys like this series, give me a thumbs up. Drop a comment and let me know. And if you're new here, subscribe. This is a fun place to be. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.